Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching the first episode of Secret Invasion, created by the guy who wrote I, Robot, Mr. Robot, and starring Samuel L. Jackson, Colby Smulders, Ben Mendelsohn, and Emilia Clarke. Now, the Secret Invasion storyline is often considered one of the best storylines Marvel's had when it comes to an alien threat. It's such a good storyline to the point where it's actually been adapted in Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes throughout most of Season 2, which is one of the best Marvel cartoons ever made. But naturally, with the Skrulls being considered the good guys throughout Captain Marvel, that did make me wonder exactly how they were going to make this storyline work in the context of a series. Well, this one definitely showed how it could be done, even if there are a few stumbles along the way. Let's get to them, shall we? The story centers around Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, who has been busy creating this organization called Saber up in space, but he returns to Earth after he finds out that a Skrull invasion is threatening the entire Earth. And with the Avengers unable to help out, he instead is going to work alongside Maria Hill, played by Colby Smulders, and Talos, played by Ben Mendelsohn. They find out that there's a secret Skrull attack that's going to happen in Russia, and it involves Gaia, a Skrull played by Emilia Clarke, and another Skrull named Gravik. Turns out they represent a bunch of Skrulls who feel disenfranchised after they've been unable to find a home for themselves ever since the events of Captain Marvel. And since that was back in the 90s and this is present day, that's over 30 years. So I can imagine that some of the Skrulls would get pretty angry by that point. Not every Skrull is united in thought, just like not every human is united in thought, is what I mean. And I definitely can see what they're going for when it comes to this initial episode. Sort of making a spy thriller for adults in the Marvel Universe, and for the most part, it actually does work when it comes to the performances involved. The performances from Clarke and from Jackson and from Mendelsohn are actually really good. But there are some stumbling blocks when it comes to the amount of exposition scenes there are. And to be fair, while the Marvel humor isn't there all the time, there's still a few lines in this first episode that do feel a bit unnecessary. Like, if they took things pretty much serious all the time, like how it was in Andor, it probably would have ended up better than some of the scenes that feel a touch out of place here. Granted, it's not as bad as it was in certain episodes of She-Hulk, for example, but it does feel like the tone isn't set as in stone as you want it to be at this point. On top of that, some people might be disappointed that Maria Hill doesn't get to do as much in the series as you might think. I know she's a side character when it comes to S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that, but there's a reason that she's marked under special guest star along with Martin Freeman as Everett Ross. Speaking of which, Everett Ross gets to be in the opening scene of this episode, which does set the tone when it comes to the fact that anyone can be considered a Skrull. So maybe we could see other Marvel recurring characters come in there as Skrulls or as people who think their main characters are Skrulls. Since the Skrulls can look and sound like anyone, and they can easily manipulate those around them, that's part of what makes their body snatcher kind of alien stories so effective. And the effects for that are thankfully decent enough. They don't have to use too much CGI in a lot of stuff, therefore the CG effects on the Skrulls actually look decent. But I certainly hope the villains aren't as easily forgiven as they were in the last few Marvel shows. That was a big stumbling block for a lot of them. But yeah, while there are some things I would have changed here and there, and some effects that work and some that don't, I do think it's a reasonable enough start. I'll see how it goes as the series goes on. So I'll see you next week when the next episode comes.